welcome to the Wayfaring Panda. Today I'm participating in the Card Hop and Hop put on by Jennifer Holder Schoolcraft, and it's actually been over a year and a half since we've had these hops, so I'm really excited to get back started in these. And so what it is each month Jennifer will pick a theme as well as a technique, and then you can choose which technique to use. So the theme this month is a new spin on an old card, and the technique you could choose is pop out diamond fun fold or a landscape diamond display. So I picked out some cards I made with this Peanuts paper collection as well as these stamps, and I used those to make some Valentine cards for my students. That time I used a sketch from Call Me Crafty Al to make a set of cards. So this time I'll change it up by making it the diamond pop-out card. I'm going to use the same pattern paper that I used previously, but I'm going to change it up, and instead of using the stamped image, I'm going to use these images that are cut apart in the paper collection. I'm using my favorite pair of scissors, which are spring-loaded, so it takes off some of the strain on your wrist. And also, you turn the paper as you cut. Now, I like using these images because, first of all, this pack of paper came with a lot of these, so I really need to use them up before I run out of the pattern paper. And also, since I'm going to need 16 of them for my class, it'll speed up the process. I moved my paper trimmer because I decided I was going to add some pops of color to my cutout, and that way it could be hardening up while I was cutting out my paper. So first of all, I'm taking some Seedless Preserves Distress ink and going around the edge of my cut apart. That way it'll add a little bit of interest and help it stand out from the background of the card. Then I add small drops of pops of color to my card. I put 3 groups of 3, and I'm using the Seafoam Pearl and Soft Pink Pearl, and the pearls are my favorite. These are just like any other enamel drops. They'll dry, so what you do is flick underneath them, and that helps flatten them out, and then they look like enamel dots, but they're cheaper than putting on enamel dots, and you can get a lot of different varieties of colors. I chose some old Stampin Up cardstock that coordinates with this paper, and it's just 8.5 times 11. Now this trimmer that I'm using is brand new to me. It's from Creative Memories, and so I'm getting used to it. Now to start with, you're going to cut out 2 panels for the pop-up card, and they're going to be 5.5 times 4.25. So basically you're cutting out half a sheet of 8.5 times 11, which is what you normally do when you make a A2 size card, but instead of folding it in half, you're going to cut it in half. So first of all, cut it at 5.5 to cut it in half, and now I'm cutting it again at 4.25. Next, I'm cutting out 2 strips for my pop-up mechanisms, and the size of this can vary. It doesn't really matter as long as it's smaller than half the size of your thing that you're popping up and not too small so that it can hold it. So I decided I would do mine 1 3/4 times 1 inch. So you'll need 2 of those. You're going to cut 4 strips from your pattern paper, and they need to be 4 inches wide. So I'm first of all going to cut this in half since it's 8 by 8. So I'll cut it by 4. You want to keep in mind that this is going in a landscape direction. So if your images are directional, you want to make sure of that. But these images, the Snoopies and hearts, are going every which way. So some of them are going to be upside down no matter which way you cut it. Then you cut this into strips of first 1/2 inch, then 1 3/4, then another 1 3/4, and then another 1/2 inch. And you want to do it in that order, and you'll see that I'm lining them up together because these have images, and so that way, even though Snoopy gets cut in half, you'll see the continuation of them on the card. So you want to keep your pieces together. The only reason you wouldn't do this is if you had, I don't know, polka dotted paper and you really couldn't tell what was being lined up. Now I did make a mistake, and on that first strip it was supposed to be a 1/2 inch, and I think I did it 3/4 of an inch, and I didn't notice that until I was gluing it down, so I fixed that later. Then you need to score the cardstock panels that we cut out. You score it at 3/4 of an inch, 2 3/4, and 4 3/4. Then you score your pop-up mechanisms, those strips of paper, in half, which for me was 3/4 of an inch. Then I use a bone folder to score my strips in half, or you could just use your fingers if you don't have a bone folder. Then I'm using my bone folder to score my card panels, and with these you want to do the little strips in a valley fold, and if you're not quite sure what that means, if you fold the paper up it forms a valley, and then the middle one you're going to make a mountain fold, so that means it makes a mountain peak. I never quite understood that, and you'll do the same for both of the card panels. Then you can see as you put these together that they'll form a diamond shape on the top, and that's where it gets the name Diamond Pop Out. Then make sure you have your pattern paper laid out how you want to glue it on, and this is where I noticed that the one piece of paper was too big, but I had already put the glue on, so I just let it dry while I put the other ones on before cutting it again. So you'll be able to see that even though I cut Snoopy and the hearts in half or in part in different places, your eye sees the continuity of it and puts it together. Now my favorite glue is the Nuvo Deluxe glue, and for this step I do like using glue because you can move your paper a little bit if you don't quite get it lined up. Then you use adhesive, and I like to use the tear tape that is double-sided adhesive to put the two card panels together, and you just put that along those two small folded areas. The brand I like to use is scrapbook.com, although the one I'm using today I think was some that someone gave me as a gift, so I have no idea where it came from. The scrapbook.com you can get like in packages of 6, and then it's less expensive. Here you can see how it pops out into the diamond form and that it will fit into an envelope, which I tried now because I didn't want to do it when I put my other part on because I wasn't sure if the pop dots had dried. Next, I put double-sided tape on one side of each of the pop-up mechanisms, and then I line those up against the middle fold of the card and put that with the fold facing the fold of the card. And then where you want to place that depends on how big your image is and where you want it to be. Since my image is really big, I'm putting it in the center. Then I add double-sided adhesive to the top of the flaps. I'll put a list of all the products that I'm using in the description below. Some of these links will be affiliate links. They don't cost you anything extra to use, but I do get a small commission from any sales that the links generate, and that helps support my channel. After I peel off the backing paper, then I take my image and line it up where I want it to be and push it down to adhere it to the card, and then the card is complete. Off screen, I made another card in the exact same way. I just used a darker purple cardstock and a different pattern paper. And the image I used didn't have a sentiment, so I cut out one of those and glued it to the image, and then also used this gold pops of color on the flower and the sentiment. As I mentioned earlier, this is part of a hop, so I'll have a link to the playlist in the description below, so click on that to catch all the other videos that the creators have made. You'll get some more inspiration. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a like, and if you're not already a subscriber, I'd really appreciate if you could subscribe to the channel. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.